I reckon it's in trouble, real trouble.
You reckon it's in trouble?
Yeah.
That's what you're hearing?
Yep. Yeah. Last night I heard it's a long shot. I actually thought we'd be in a position this morning, where we'd have a development here. I was told yesterday there might be some movement. There'd be something we can discuss if you're a Hawthorn supporter, in a positive sense for them to get Merritt. But he had talks at the hangar yesterday with a range of Essendon officials. Now, I cannot for the life of me get any context to that meeting, what was
So
said.
Merritt was at the hangar
Yep.
chatting to officials from the Bombers yesterday.
Yep. Coach, list manager, CEO.
Right.
But I'm not sure what the context of the conversations were, whether it was more of the same, whether it was we're done with it. Well, I don't know, but it happened. And we've got 2 days left, and I think, look, it's always been unlikely, but I think it's really unlikely now. And we just wait, don't we? There's been no Hawthorn offer, no indication from Hawthorn about what they're prepared to give. Now, we can only... And I'm admitting it here, we can only hypothesise. Is it because they can't convince players to go there? Are they unable to put anything together? Are they not willing to put something massive together?
Do they like their own players and they thought that...
Well, how did they think it was going to get done, though?
Well, did they think that Essendon were not going to be as strong as this? And in the end, that they would give in to 2 first-round picks with Zack desperately wanting to get out, and the unlikely scenario where Essendon hold on to a player who doesn't want to be there. Maybe they thought that. I mean, more often than not, when a player says, I want out, and he is aggressive about it, and there's a couple of picks up for grabs, it usually gets done. But I've got to say, geez, I love it from Essendon. I really do. And there's different schools of thought on this. But if that's the case, I guess the meeting, if I had to guess what it was about, it'd be about Zack getting his head around walking back to Essendon and say, look, mate, this is not happening. I know you want this to happen, but it's not happening. So let's work out a way how we can deal with this together and move on and try and smooth over what has been a massive hit to Zack's reputation in and amongst the competition and his teammates. That's what I would think it would be about.
A little birdie told me things are moving in the Zack Merritt discussion. So Sammy Edmund has mentioned that, as we did this morning, that Essendon met with Merritt yesterday, key talks. The new information is that Merritt told Brad Scott directly that he wanted to be traded and wanted to play for the Hawks. Now, clearly Essendon said no back to that. He's contracted for 2 more years, but the Hawks are set to test that resolve with a trade package, including at least 2 first-round draft picks. So we wait to see what cards the Hawks play here, Hurdy.
Moving day. Everyone thought it was going to be yesterday, but I think moving day is today on the Zack Merritt deal, and there's been a lot of posturing, a lot of, I wouldn't say they're leaks, but a lot of conditioning to people as to how they should see it, but I think we will see a lot happen today.
Yeah, there's no time to wait now. It is genuinely go time. If the Hawks want Merritt and Merritt wants the Hawks, then they need to test Essendon's resolve.
People talk about Zack has to drop a bomb, right? Zack has to actually come out and say exactly why he wants to leave. Do you believe he needs to do that, and will he do that?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Yeah, but
because that is the nuclear option.
That is the nuclear option, and he hasn't done it yet.
Some big news when it comes to the Blues. Charlie Curnow and a Swans
well,
offer.
This is what This is what they're offering as we speak this morning. So, speaking to people around the situation, it may not have been formally lodged yet, but this is what the offer is. Yep. So, Charlie Curnow, the deal that the Sydney Swans want is pick 11, a 2026 first rounder, Ollie Florent and Will Hayward. And the Swans, in return, want Curnow and pick 22 back.
Okay.
So I thought it was going to be a later pick. It's actually pick 22 they want back from Carlton. Now,
is that optimistic?
That's the Jack Silvani compensation pick. I think a late pick was about right. I think 22 is probably a bit high. That's my view. What do you think, Sarah and Josh?
It might be a little bit optimistic from the Swans, but I like that they've put a deal out there. Well, it's not officially out there, Tom. This is just what you're hearing, but you've got to give something to get something in return. And this is a bit of a missing piece, Josh, a big forward for the Swans.
Oh, you'd be an enormous get, but that is a lot to give. But you do need to give plenty, Tom, to get something.
Yeah, and I think when you look at the deal in its totality, I think they're probably expecting that Carlton knock it back and maybe offer a late pick instead of that pick 22. That's part of the negotiating tactics.
But off the top, some news. Let's begin with Judd McVee. We know he's now at the Dockers, but you've got a bit of information around the deal he's actually signed.
Well, lots of bumper deals have been signed so far this trade period. Tom De Koning, the big one, clearly with that 8-year deal, moving to St Kilda as a free agent. Sam Flanders also landed a 6-year contract with the Saints. We know Oscar Allen moved to Brisbane on a 6-year deal, and Sam Draper's can be as many as 6 years at Brisbane as well. But Judd McVee's an interesting one because we waited for many months to find out where he's going to decide to play. This year, he made his decision after the grand final to move to Fremantle. That deal went through last Wednesday morning, big 23 in exchange. My understanding is he signed a 5-year deal with the Dockers, which shows how highly rated he is by Fremantle. Not that he wasn't at Melbourne. Melbourne were desperate to keep him. They had an offer on the table going back to 2024, so they knew that a move was in the works for some time. But 5-year deal is a significant deal for anyone, but especially someone that moves at this stage. And this is a guy, Sarah, that started on the rookie list at Melbourne and became one of their first choice small defenders. So I think he's going to add something to that mix. I think he's going to be a really good get.
And just 22 years old, they're starting to really not just build, but strengthen the depth of that young nucleus of the Dockers, aren't they?
They certainly are. And I think down back there has been a bit of planning going on for what the future looks like with Alex Pearce and Luke Ryan north of 30. Brendan Cox got back and played a lot of footy this year, but Judd McVee definitely adds something to that mix that we've seen Corey Wagner play a really important role for them down back, but clearly Judd McVee's an upgrade.
So Corey Durdin is now at Port Adelaide after a time spent at Carlton, 64 games after he was selected there with pick 37 in 2020, as Josh just illustrated. He was part of a 3-way deal that also involved Gold Coast and Ben Ainsworth. Corey Durdin joins us on the line. Good morning to you, Corey.
Good morning, guys. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming on the trade exchange. Just from your perspective, talk us through the trade and how it came about, because I think you still had a year to run on your contract.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, year left on the contract, and got back to Adelaide after the season finished, and just started having to think about, I guess, where my future sort of looks. So I'm getting married in November, and a few sort of questions that popped up for me, like where I see myself long term. Do I want to get closer to family? And I sort of ultimately made a decision that I want to move back a bit closer to my family and get back home. So just asked the manager to see if there's any interest, and Port came with an opportunity. So it all happened really quickly. I wasn't really expecting much to happen this year. I was preparing to be at Carlton next year, and then sort of just last week, I guess, it just progressed pretty quickly, and now at Port.
We'll come back to that November wedding because that sounds exciting and right in my wheelhouse, Corey. But you mentioned the pull of home there and getting home to South Australia. Was that ultimately one of the biggest factors?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's in a way a little bittersweet because I know I'm giving up a lot of good relationships, some great people that I'll be leaving, and it's sad that this is sort of how it happens in footy. You know, you meet great people, but there's ultimately a time where you just got to worry about what's best for you and your future. So, I made that confidently, that decision to move back and be closer to the family.
You turned 32 only in August. It wasn't that long ago. It feels like you've still got a couple of years left in you. You've been to 3 clubs, GWS, Melbourne and Hawthorn. Will there be a fourth? Has there been any communication with any clubs? I mean, I can see the questions coming in off the IMAR insurance text line. Will there be a fourth club? Have you spoken to one yet?
I haven't actually spoken to one yet, but my understanding is that I can kind of be signed post-draft as clubs are finalising their list. There's no one's gone out of their way to have that conversation until trade's done, and then probably until draft's done. So for now, I'm happy just doing a lot of parenting, and I feel pretty relaxed. I feel happy, but I'm sure that phone call will come at some time, and there'll be a few conversations to have. Obviously, people like to look at lists and see where there are gaps, and there'd be a few clubs I'm sure I'd fill a gap somewhere, even if it's just for depth or stock. But I look forward to having the option to take something or not take something, and if nothing comes up, then life goes on.
With us on the line, we are joined by Michael Oakes from Elevation Sports Agency, the manager of Bailey Humphrey. Oakesy, thanks for coming on Gettable.
Pleasure, mate. How are you, boys?
Very well, thank you. Might start just right here, right now. Where does it sit with Bailey Humphrey?
Yeah, good question. Bailey's a contracted player, and he's always known that whilst contracted, it's at the club's discretion as to whether they let a player move or not. Obviously, we flagged the possibility with the Suns post-season, and we're told it wouldn't happen then. We've since seen other contract players depart the Suns this trade period, and that probably has made it a little more difficult in Bailey's eyes. But where it sits with Bailey, we sort of know based on what the club said to us and said publicly too.
So you've absolutely put a line through it now, Michael, that he's not moving?
I think the Suns have been consistently resolute in their comments on this. I do understand that clubs come out with default comments at the beginning of trade period on the availability of players and who've requested or discussed trades. And as we see, some subsequently do change their mind or change their stance in this period. We've seen this hasn't happened in Bailey's case at the moment. So I'd say so, yep.
So with that likelihood now, is Bailey comfortable going back to Gold Coast, and how do you think that's going to shape out?
Mate, he loves the club. He loves his teammates, and this has never been flagged as an issue or a concern. I think we can see this clearly in his antics on the field and through his expression on social media. So, no, I don't expect this to change in any way. I will say, I think the notion of turning players into pariahs who talk to other clubs whilst contracted is sort of exclusive to the public domain. Within the club and within the industry, it's a bit different.
What were the reasons for him wanting to return to Victoria, Michael?
Look, he's got a very close bond with his family, and he's actually a pillar within his family. I probably won't go into more detail there as it's private, but the club across the particulars. I will say probably with players from Gippsland, I've had a couple, it sort of goes both ways. Either they never head back to the region after being drafted, or they maintain strong ties with the community there. And Bailey's clearly someone that's retained strong ties in the region.
How have the Suns been about this process? Have they been across everything that's been going on throughout this process?
They have. They've been fairly staunch in their messaging, that's for sure. The coach has been in contact with Bailey, offering assistance where he can as well. Look, I found Craig's comments a little head-scratching last week regarding Bailey. It's a tense period, I understand, and I took that up with Craig privately. I'm probably also aware I just pinched one of his quotes from last week too. Look, our ongoing relationship with the Suns will be fine, mate. We both have the player as sort of paramount importance to us. So, look, the Suns have been fine.
The meetings with clubs that came up or chatting to the Victorian clubs, how did they come about, and how aware of them were you, including the now infamous tan walk with Stephen King and Nathan Jones?
Yeah, mate, I've been aware. Aside the infamous, as you put it, stroll around the tan, it's all run through me. Trade period, as we know, moves at a fairly rapid rate. And I'm not going to go into detailed timelines, but it's fair to say the sand shifted in regards to Bailey's situation pretty quickly with club inquiries after that. What I will say is it's been a lot more informal, this process, than it's been speculated and reported, if that makes sense.
Yep. So Melbourne's been long interested in Bailey, obviously going back to his 2022 draft season where he popped up mid-season and went bang in the second half of that season and really burst up the draft board. Hawthorn, Collingwood threw his name up last year as well as part of the deal with John Noble too. So how significant has the Victorian club interest been in him?
I've heard from most Victorian clubs in one way or another. As I said, there's a couple I haven't spoken to, but it's all been fairly consistently inbound. Or when I say fairly consistently inbound, I haven't had to make any calls on behalf of Bailey. Clubs are checking in, and they've checked in on a semi-regular basis since his draft year. And I think we all know Lammy's been keen on him since his draft year, and they tried to manipulate their way up the draft board on that night, and that hasn't changed.
You mentioned the public's view of Bailey and players meeting with clubs while in contract as being a pariah in a sense. I mean, Bailey's copped some criticism through this process, and you yourself have as well. Do you think that's been fair, that criticism?
Mate, I suppose when you state there isn't much to a story and 5 hours later your client's photographed publicly with an opposition coach, you sort of open yourself to criticism, and I accept that. I will say that I'm fiercely loyal to my players, and if some commentators want to make mismanaged statements based on rumour and piece together stories, I'll cover my players if I deem it necessary, and that's now and in the future. At the moment, I speak with Bailey on a daily basis. He's an extremely loyal guy. And look, we laugh at some of the stories. Some are wildly inaccurate, and given how loyal he is, some actually do affect him. I understand there's sort of an intense interest in trade period, and that's only growing year on year. Obviously stoked by you boys. However, there's a real personal side to some of these negotiations, and I hope we, as the public, don't forget that moving forward.
I know we touched on it before, but was Gold Coast aware he was meeting with clubs while he was down in Melbourne?
No, they weren't.
Okay. He's contracted to the end of 2028, so 3 more years. He signed that 4-year extension pretty early into his time at the Suns. Do you expect this to be a storyline throughout next year as well, and a consideration for him?
Do you think he's going to try again next year, mate? We've seen this happen in the past where players have denied trades and then play out their careers at those clubs. We've also seen it happen where trades affected the following season. I think in Bailey's case, the fact he's a pillar of his family and he's got strong ties in the community down there, that's not going to change. It's more whether he further adapts over what's probably going to be a successful season at the Suns. That's probably going to dictate that moving forward.
Tom Morris moments ago has tweeted, and I quote, Hawthorn has offered a deal to Essendon for Zack Merritt.
What's the deal?
Pick 9, which has always been a centrepiece here.
Yep.
A future first.
F1, yep.
A second rounder this year or next.
Yep.
And Henry Hustwaite.
Hustwaite.
So
9, a future first, a second either this year or next year.
Mm-hmm.
Take your pick. And Hustwaite.
Mm-hmm.
Not a bad offer.
And away we go.
30-year-old.
And away we go. For people who want a little catch up over the last 24 hours, Zack Merritt and his manager Tom Petroro met with the hierarchy.
They did.
At the Essendon Football Club yesterday. Essendon reiterated their desire to not trade him. Zack Merritt reiterated his desire to get to Hawthorn.
Yep.
Sam Mitchell called him this morning and said, hey, 1, checking in, 2, we still want you to be a Hawk.
Mm-hmm.
And now that deal has been put to the Bombers. I believe that Sam Mitchell might be at this, maybe not this game, the earlier NFL game, the Bills and the Atlanta Falcons is coming through there, but he was definitely in the USA. So that is where that currently sits.
Kel Toomey reporting on Trade Radio and AFL.com.au. Gold Coast's Braden Fiorini has been traded to Essendon for a 2026 third-round pick. Kel Toomey reporting that on AFL.com.au, JJ. So, Bomber's doing something today, but
decent acquisition. Played some good footy when he got his opportunity around the ball, so that'll be Essendon's challenge. Otherwise, that's why, and I've got a similar view about Cal Archie, despite the fact he's a 2-time premiership player at Adelaide. If he gets there, if you bring Braden Fiorini in and just play him on the wing, a little bit of half back, a little bit of half forward, the odd minutes inside mid, you might get 2 years down the track and think, oh, gee, has he really helped us get better? Bring him in. If you identify him as a player who can improve your midfield, play him in the midfield, leave him in the midfield, and give him the chance to really help your midfield improve. So I think that's what they should do with him. Essendon have got the space in there. Caldwell is a really good in and under contest-to-contest player. Whether Zack Merritt's there or not, we'll find out. We'll all learn together in the next 24 hours or so, but Fiorini can come in and improve that midfield, as he did when he got the opportunity at Gold Coast this year when Tuke Miller was out of the team.
Yeah, okay, so they haven't given up a lot for that, have they? Given it's a next year's draft and it's a third-round pick.
There's only upside for them in the deal. I just think if you sort of fluff around with him in 3 or 4 different positions, you get to the end of most seasons and think, well, gee, what did we really get out of Braden Fiorini? Sometimes it's not the player's fault. Just you move them around and you don't give them a chance to actually have an impact on the team. So hopefully whatever the role is, they might identify him as a winger on the opposite side to Dersma. Clubs are dead keen to have 2 really important and impactful wingers, and if that's the role, play him there. 23 games a season.
Adam in Riverton has called in on the Energy Educators Open Line. Hello, Adam.
Howdy, fellas. Hope you're all well.
Likewise, Adam.
Just wondering, I heard some rumours earlier in the year about potentially CJ moving across to Carlton. I was just wondering if that had any weight to it.
Your timing is absolutely perfect, Adam. I say that because Sammy Edmund, who has been breaking stories on an hourly basis for 3 weeks on Trade Radio this year, has just happened to walk past the studio. We thought he had something on his mind. We've got him in. He's put the headphones on. And it is about, very conveniently, Sammy, CJ.
It is. Hello, Damo. Hello, JJ. First time, long time on the Late Trade too, and an absolute pleasure to be here. Carlton did have an interest, to answer the question, but that was relatively short-lived, and the door was closed on that from a Carlton perspective some time ago. But then, of course, Hawthorn have encouraged CJ to explore his options. He's done that. He's got some interest from Melbourne. That much became clear today. And now I can tell you that Changkuoth Jiath has agreed to join the Demons on what would be a 3-year deal, subject, of course, to a trade needing to be agreed between the two clubs. But I'd like to think that won't be an issue. He's leaving in good faith from a Hawthorn point of view. They're not playing him. He's searching for greater opportunity. And Melbourne, at this stage, have the assets on the table to make a deal possible. So I think he will be in the red and the blue next year and for the next 3 years.
Okay, good outcome for him. And Brad Johnson has talked him up regularly, hasn't he, JJ?
He does like him,
on the late trade as someone who could help change a club's fortunes if they get the right role for him. And hopefully Stephen King can embrace that.